So we'll start with head carriage, floating the head back, crown of the head rise, the back spread out and the shoulders sink. Open the hands. Soften the knees. Bend forward a little bit from the hips. The tailbone drop under. The tip of the tailbone is lifting up a little bit, finding a little support in the pelvic floor. Relaxing down through the legs, spreading the feet, and lightly grabbing the floor. So we feel a communication between the centers of the feet and the sense of the arches lifting a little bit. And some lift and support of the pelvic floor. Tip of the tongue at the roof of the mouth, just a little back from the teeth. And that lift right up through the crown of the head, crown being just a little bit to the rear. Subtle lift and spreading of the back. And the releasing of the weight down from the head, neck and shoulders, hips sinking, releasing down through the floor. A kind of homeostasis. The feeling of releasing the weight down helps create a little push up to the floor that supports and opens the body and makes it a little easier to release the weight down, etc., etc. We'll rock our weight a little bit forward and back. And the feet spread as we come forward and feel a little bit more of that grabbing of the floor as we sit back. Feel that change in the feet activate whole lower leg right up through the calves and shins. Pause in the middle, we'll do a big shift side to side. About 70% of the weight, making sure to really release the hips, especially on the lighter side. So that foot still feels a little heavy, feels a little anchored. Circle the weight. That movement down the feet and ankles, but also a little bit up in the hips. Maintaining our posture and noticing how the posture helps to drop our breath into the abdomen. And breath relaxed, slow, even. Pause and reverse that circle. We might even start to feel some movement in the deep abdomen as we do that. Press it down just a little deeper and let the hands come to the low back. Tuck the tailbone a little extra. Feel the low back pushing into the palms, and then untuck, stick the backside out a little bit. Feel that deep curve in the low back. And how one direction stretches out the low back and the other direction stretches out the front of the abdomen. Feel a kind of exchange. Forward and back through the whole abdomen, through the deep abdomen. And then let's drop one hip down, stretching out the side of the waist, making space between the top of the hip bone and the lower ribs. The other side. To do that, we bend one knee, get that hip drop down toward the ankle. Circle. Reverse. The obvious movements in the hip joints, and we see the movement of the hip bones, but we can feel something working again all the way to the deepest part of the abdomen. It's a little subtle at first. Let's take a little wider step. Here we're dropping the tailbone under more in that basic posture. We want to maintain that feeling as we sway the hips forward and back. Keeping the head in the center. Most of the movement around the hip area. We'll feel a little something down in the ankles as well. And we may even feel a little bit of that spreading out of the feet when the hips are forward and the arches, toes grabbing the floor as we swing back. Pause in the middle and sway side to side. Again, I might feel a deeper abdominal movement here. Just a little something. Make a big circle. Here, that deeper abdominal movement might become a little more clear. Feel just a little stronger. I'm not doing anything extra. It just accompanies, right, this big circle I'm making with the hips. Bigger weight shift. It's still really just 70% of the weight that's shifting. It's just I have a wider stance, which makes the movement bigger. Still releasing 30% of the weight down through the lighter leg, softening that hip, keeping the foot planted. And that allows me to keep a nice round arch formed by the two legs together. So I never let one leg slacken and fall in. The more I can keep the tailbone dropping under, lengthen the low back, the easier it is to hold that arch of the legs just spontaneously, just let it happen naturally rather than trying to hold my legs apart. Pause in the middle and do some turns. All the turning is coming from the hips here, the whole upper body just riding along. If my hands are on the hip bones, you can feel that my hips and shoulders, right, the hip bones and the shoulders are staying in line. I'm not turning extra at the waist or the head. The whole upper body just goes along for the ride. If I add the weight shift back in, I get a little more stretch in that back hip. It's a little harder to, again, anchor the lighter foot. Maintain some quality of that arch of the legs. And reverse. I can feel how I'm opening up the hip on one side and folding into that hip crease on the other. And the movement of the knees is not so much side to side, it's just a little front to back. We want to avoid any twisting in of the knee. If this is comfortable, right, if I feel pretty comfortable and stable, I can toe out with one foot and squat down a little bit into that leg. Toe back in, toe it on the other side. So the knee moving right out over the toes, squat down, turn back a little bit. This does not need to be super wide step. It does not need to be a very deep squat. It should just be a modest challenge. And it should feel like the work is in the thicker part of the muscle. I don't feel strain at the joint, at the knee especially. I'm going a little deeper. I am not necessarily encouraging you to. Just doing what's comfortable. All right. I don't want to overdo that. Just shake out the legs a little bit. And then I'm going to take a step forward. Keep the back heel down. Try to drop the tailbone under. Stretch that back leg.
Is your back heel on the floor?
Yes. As I go forward, that back heel stays down. So 30% of my weight's on that back leg still, and just as much weight on the heel as on the toes.
And it's turned out as well?
That's up to you. Right now, this step, my feet are pretty parallel. If that does not feel comfortable, you can always have the toes turned out. So I'm not so much doing the Tai Chi bow step that we've been using in the walking. This is much more just a parallel step. Right. So my feet are about hips width, and I'm just stepping one foot straight forward. So I want to work a little bit more with the hands today. They really are part of an Tai Chi walking exercise. And let's go back to the weight shifting and the turning. And here I'm going to shift the weight first and then turn. Shift back and then turn. And if I put my hands in front of my hips, they just come along for the ride. And I get that figure eight kind of pattern. Like as if I'm tracing a figure eight right on a tabletop. But not by moving the arms, just by shifting the weight and turning from the hips. And if I sit back first and then turn, there's one kind of feeling. I may even feel that deeper abdominal movement, just a little bit from front to back, making the low back feel kind of full, but still relaxed. So this direction emphasizes that backward sitting. And I've talked previously a little bit about the fact that the hands are not fixed absolutely. They're not something rigid about the position. There's a little play, but it's really just an inch sort of in and out, up and down. It's very slight and it's very spontaneous. It's just something that happens along with the weight shifting and turning. So here, as I sit back, it feels like the hands settle in a little bit. Then turn, opens things up. And again, the hands are sinking and settling. They may feel a little heavy. But I can reverse the movement and emphasize it pushing forward. Then I turn back and push forward. And this movement is slightly more complicated in a way. It's not necessarily harder. It just has perhaps one more piece that we can benefit by noticing. So as I turn back and get ready to push forward, the hands are sort of drawing in and settling. And as I shift forward, they don't lift right away. As I shift the weight forward, first they feel like they're sinking and pressing down a little bit more. It's not something I want to do as choreography exactly. It's not something I want to consciously do, right, with this intention of pushing down. It's much more something I want to feel like it just happens automatically, something I'm trying to notice and allow for a certain connection in the body rather than trying to stick it in there. And after that slight pressing down, then the hands release and move out. So they're gathering in and down, and as I start to shift, they continue, right, to sink down, and then they release out. Now, I'm exaggerating the amount of moving here slightly. It's actually pretty subtle. I just want to make something visible on camera. And again, I'm just shifting about 70% of my weight. That back leg is still anchored, really trying to soften that hip, drop the tailbone under. But just noticing that as I start shifting, first the hands sink down a little bit more, and then they release. And that may not happen right away. So we need to be patient, not worry about it too much. Just keep checking in, noticing.
Are your elbows changing?
So slightly. But if you are aware of your elbows straightening out or your hand pushing away from your body significantly, you're way overdoing it. And that's what almost everybody does here. They just really exaggerate the arm movement. We don't want that. We want the hands more or less just sitting here in front of the hips the whole time, right? So my elbow stays down, and importantly, my shoulder never stretches forward.
Mm-hmm.
So I always feel like my shoulder blade is sinking down, really toward the middle of my back, and not my shoulder blade pulling to the front. And when my shoulder blade pulls to the front, my shoulder is going to have a tendency to lift as well. And I actually want the shoulder going in sort of the opposite direction. So to the degree that I feel my hands pushing away from me even a little bit, it feels like my shoulder is actually doing the opposite. As the hand moves away from me just an inch or so, the shoulder blade feels like a counterbalance that's sinking into my back. So that hopefully is going to become even more clear in a moment. So we're gonna add something because we've done this before, but we're going to add a little something to it today. We're going to turn out. Step back just a hair, make sure my feet are visible. So when I toe out here, that puts me in about the bow stance again, right? If I was facing straight toward the camera, you can see my heels are about hips width apart, front foot is straight, the back foot at a comfortable angle, say about 45 degrees. But for the moment, I'm going to be facing to the side when I do that. And I want to start the weight shift. Right? So we've done about much of this bow stance weight shifting. So again, 70% forward, 70% back. Right? If I want to warm up to it a little bit, I can just keep the hips in kind of a neutral angle first. Hopefully a tailbone dropping under, stretching out the lower back gently. A bit, right? If my belt buckle is facing at an angle sort of between my feet here. Now I want to stretch out that back hip a little bit more, so I start to turn my belt buckle towards that front leg. And if my front foot is pointing in this direction, my hips, right, ideally are at a right angle to it, so perpendicular, right? So, but you probably won't get that far around, and you shouldn't force it. But you can think of it as kind of a goal, a very soft goal. Each time I come forward, I'm turning my hips to the front. Still trying to keep that back foot planted, dropping the tailbone under, which with this turn of the hips, it gets harder. And then finally, I'm going to keep my hips facing this way as I shift forward and back. Same 70-30 weight shift. When I go forward, the back heel stays down. When I sit back, the front knee stays a little bent. I don't let the front leg slacken. Now, if I leave the hands here again, sort of in front of the hips, it's not going to feel so, right? They don't say just one spot. They can, but that feels kind of stiff and rigid. There's a little play forward and back, very small. And again, if I feel like my shoulder is chasing that movement, I really want to think of the shoulder blade sinking down into my back as a kind of counterbalance. And after a little while, you may feel like it's not just straight forward and back, but there's a little bit of a circle. So as I sit back, the hands are lifting up a little bit. And as I arrive on the back leg, they're starting to sink down again. And as I shift forward, they're sinking down a little bit more before they open up. Sitting back, they start to feel a little heavy. The hands sink down. Coming forward, they feel a little heavier still. And then they start to just release and float up at the end of that shift forward. So the coordination here is very fluid. It's not just sitting back, my hands are coming back, shifting forward, my hands are going forward. It's a little bit right, more fluid than that. It's true that when I'm sitting back, my hands are coming back. Right? But first they rise and then they sink. And as I go forward, it's true that the hands are getting pushed forward. But they first sink and then they rise. And that's where I find that circle. Now that's a lot of words and it can make me think like I'm supposed to be doing all these things. It's really just a description of how it'll start to feel after a while. Now, if I sit back and I toe out my front foot, turning my toes out maybe 45 degrees to the side, and I shift forward now, I can step the back foot forward and then start again. All right, so we've just taken a walking step. So I'm just back in the bow stance with the other foot forward. It's the same movement. All right, if I turn to this side, but keep the same foot in front, you'll see it's just the mirror image of what I was doing on the first side. And the speed here should be one that helps create that fluid feeling, right? Too fast is not great. Too slow is not ideal either. So while Tai Chi is usually practiced, this kind of exercise at least is usually practiced on the slow side, there is such a thing as too slow. So vary your speed from time to time. Slowing it down will make some things a little easier, a little more clear. But if it starts to feel sluggish or you're getting too self-conscious, you can speed it up to something that just feels a little more natural. We want to avoid anything that actually feels fast. Now again, if I want to change my footing, I'm going to sit back, toe out. As I start to shift forward, the hands are pressing down and just take a full step through. So it's a pretty simple step. Not like the complicated things we've been doing the last few weeks. Sit back, toe out, and take another step forward. Turn around. Just stay on camera here. Go out, step forward. Sit back, toe out, step forward. And so each time I toe out, that as I sit back here, I can let the toes come up and pivoting on the heel, shift forward, toes come back down, step through right into a push, nice and smooth. Sit back, with the toes, toe out. But I'm not really turning out to the side as we've done previously. I'm keeping my hips facing straight forward. And that way, it's actually much simpler. Let's reverse the position, go out. To my best of my ability, I keep the same height. I don't stand up. I keep my knees, my hips flexed. And I can just take a step every maybe couple of pushes. Or I could even take a step every push. Yeah, just turning around, toeing in. So this time, every time I sit back, I'm toeing out. So I can take another step forward. Sit back, toe out. Take another step forward. And I'm going at a medium fast speed here to sort of just do more repetitions. You can see the pattern. But feel free to do it considerably slower. Maybe I'll start with my commencement this time. And there's something about this that's very similar to the commencement. Toe in, arms to the back. Right? As I settle down and the hands feel heavy. Now I'm just going to toe out, step forward. I'll go a little slower now. Speed that may be a little more conducive to feeling everything and staying relaxed. Round. Each time I sit back, let the front toes come up and I toe out. Gives me room for the next push. Here, as I sit back, instead of toeing out, I'm toeing in all the way around. So as you get more comfortable with it, you can actually slow it down. Often we would think, oh, as you get more comfortable with something, you can speed it up. Here, there's a lot to be gained by reversing that tendency. And we often speed the movements up without even intending to. Here, I'm just going to turn back, bring my feet parallel, the hands sink down and rise up. If we want a few more exercises for the arms, if I hadn't been trying to keep things short, we might have started with just those shoulder shrugs, forward and back. And when I bring the shoulders back, it's again back and down towards the middle back. And just a gentle squeeze. Pulling one shoulder straight down into the body, let the other one rise. Circle the shoulders. And reverse. Raise up the arms, extend them back. And again, sinking the shoulders, right? Sinking the shoulder blades down into the back as I reach out. Cross, open out. Again, sink the shoulders as the arms rise up. And also sink the hips. Connect those two feelings, shoulders and hips sinking, especially the back of the hips. You have the back of the shoulder and the back of the hips. Circle one arm. I'm just putting one hand on my ribs under the arm. And as I reach back, very subtly pulling to the front. Up in the stabilized position of the body. Feel a little bit of that stretch under the arm. And also remembering to sink the shoulders. A few circles in one direction. And reverse. Pick out the arms and legs. And we'll just walk in place. With that intention again of not so much lifting one leg, but really concentrating on how the weight sinks through the other until we start to feel the lift on the other side for free. Here, if I let the arms swing, shoulder blades are still sinking down into the back. Oh. Thank you.